You lock the door. You shut the windows tight. The lights stay off. No footsteps cross the floor. No hands touch the shelves. Time passes quietly, exactly as planned. And yet, when you finally return, the room has changed. A fine grey layer coats the surfaces. The air smells still and old. Dust is everywhere. It feels almost mocking, like the room has been busy while you were gone. Most of us instinctively blame the outside world. Traffic. Wind. Open windows. People moving in and out. But none of those things happened here. The space was sealed. Or at least, it felt sealed. And that's the uncomfortable mystery. If nothing came in, why did something still appear? Dust seems to violate our sense of cause and effect. It shows up where logic says it shouldn't. To understand why, we have to let go of the idea that dust is an intruder. It isn't. Dust is already inside. Always has been. And a closed room doesn't stop dust. It gives it time. Dust isn't one thing. It's a collection. A microscopic crowd made of everything that slowly sheds, breaks down, and drifts through daily life. A surprisingly large portion of household dust comes from people, even when they're no longer present. Human skin constantly renews itself. Millions of dead skin cells flake off every day, becoming so light they float like smoke. Hair fragments break down. Clothing fibers loosen with movement and washing, then linger in the air. Those particles don't disappear when a room is closed. They're already embedded in fabrics, carpets, curtains, and upholstery. They rest on walls, settle into cracks, and remain suspended in the air long after the door shuts. A closed room doesn't reset to zero. It freezes a moment in time with dust already mid-journey. Then there are the objects themselves. Furniture sheds fibers. Paper breaks down into microscopic pulp. Wood dries and releases particles. Paint ages and sheds pigment so fine it's invisible until it accumulates. Even plastic slowly degrades, releasing particles far too small to notice individually. Dust is not dirt in the traditional sense. It's the physical record of materials aging. A closed room is full of aging materials, all quietly contributing to the same invisible process. Nothing dramatic. Nothing sudden. Just slow, continuous release. The biggest misconception is the idea that a closed room is airtight. In reality, almost no building truly is. Air is constantly moving, even when you can't feel it. Tiny gaps around doors and windows allow pressure to equalize. Electrical outlets connect to wall cavities. Floorboards expand and contract. Walls themselves are not perfect barriers. As temperatures change between day and night, air inside the room warms and cools, rising and sinking in slow currents. This gentle breathing motion is enough to move dust. It doesn't need a breeze. It just needs time. Over weeks and months, even the faintest air exchange introduces new particles while redistributing the ones already inside. Dust also has a strange relationship with stillness. In a busy room, movement keeps particles suspended. Walking stirs air. Cleaning lifts dust back into circulation where it can be captured by vacuums or ventilation systems. In a closed room, nothing interrupts gravity. Dust drifts downward at its own pace. Not falling, exactly. More like descending. Microscopic particles can take hours or even days to settle just a few feet. When they land, they stay put. No one brushes past them. No air blast pushes them away. Flat surfaces become long-term landing zones. Shelves, tables, and floors slowly collect layers so thin they're invisible at first. Given enough time, those layers become unmistakable. This is why dust in closed rooms often looks evenly spread, almost deliberate. It hasn't been disturbed. It hasn't been smeared or redistributed by human activity. It's settled naturally, particle by particle, forming a uniform coating that feels thicker than dust in a frequently used space. Ironically, rooms that are lived in often appear cleaner precisely because they're disturbed. Dust there is constantly lifted, moved, and removed. Stillness gives dust the upper hand. Another quiet contributor is the building itself. Structures are not static. They age. Materials expand and contract with temperature and humidity. Insulation releases fibers. Drywall sheds microscopic gypsum particles. Wood frames flex. Concrete slowly erodes at a scale far too small to see. In older buildings especially, this internal shedding can rival or exceed outside dust sources. Even a completely sealed room inside a building would continue to generate dust simply because the materials that form the room are slowly breaking down. Dust doesn't need an entrance. It can be born right where it settles. Humidity adds another layer to the story. Moist air changes how dust behaves. In dry conditions, particles remain light and airborne longer. In humid environments, dust absorbs moisture and becomes heavier and stickier. This causes it to settle faster and cling more stubbornly to surfaces. A closed room with fluctuating humidity can experience repeated cycles where dust lifts slightly with warm air, then settles again as conditions change. Each cycle redistributes particles, helping them spread across new surfaces. Over time, this makes dust feel more pervasive, as if it's multiplying rather than merely settling. There's also the matter of time perception. Dust accumulation feels sudden because our brains don't register gradual change well. We remember a room is clean because that's the last clear image we stored. Weeks later, we see dust and interpret it as a recent event. In reality, nothing sudden happened. Thousands of tiny events occurred slowly and continuously. Dust is patient. It doesn't announce itself. It waits until enough particles align to become visible. What looks like overnight buildup is actually the final reveal of a process that never stopped. Dust also carries information. Each layer contains traces of where it came from. Skin cells. Fabric fibers. Soil particles tracked in long ago. Pollen from a different season. Microscopic soot from distant pollution that entered through ventilation. In that sense, dust is a timeline. A physical archive of everything that has passed through a space. A closed room doesn't stop that archive from growing. It simply stops us from noticing until enough pages have been written. There's something unsettling about that idea. We associate stillness with preservation. We assume that if nothing touches a space, it should remain unchanged. Dust proves otherwise. It shows that motion doesn't require movement we can see. Air shifts. Materials age. Gravity works non-stop. Even in silence, the environment is active. Dust is the visible proof of invisible processes. This is why dust feels so persistent, almost defiant. Cleaning removes the visible layer, but it doesn't stop the mechanisms that create it. Shedding continues. Air continues to move. Materials continue to age. Gravity continues its quiet work. A closed room doesn't escape those forces. In some ways, it amplifies them by removing interruptions. Dust doesn't rush in to fill emptiness. It slowly reveals what was already happening. Seen this way, dust buildup in a closed room isn't a failure of cleanliness or neglect. It's a natural outcome of time passing in a physical world. It's evidence that nothing is ever truly static. Even when we leave a space alone, the universe doesn't. It keeps nudging particles, shifting air, and breaking materials down into smaller and smaller pieces. So the next time you open a long closed door and see that familiar grey film waiting for you, it helps to pause. That dust didn't appear out of nowhere. It didn't sneak in all at once. It arrived patiently, one particle at a time, carried by forces so gentle you never felt them. Dust is time made visible. A reminder that even in silence, change is constant. Thank you for watching. If you have ideas for our next video, drop them in the comments and we'll be sure to give you a shout out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay curious about the quiet processes shaping the world around you.